Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, President Trump meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House for high-stakes talks about Iran negotiations, and the White House celebrating the new jobs report. Mario Tzu reports. The Israel Defense Forces conduct cross-border military operations, including in the West Bank and Syria. Meanwhile, the head of the new government set to oversee the Gaza Strip gives an update at the Rafah border crossing. Jason Perry with the details. New developments in the Nancy Guthrie case, but the sheriff's office is still not talking to the media. Meanwhile, the FBI's investigation ramps up. Arlene Richards brings us the update. Authorities identify a suspect after 8 people are killed in a school shooting in Canada. We have more information on his gender transition and mental health history. Dawson's Creek star James Van Der Beek has died a little more than a year after announcing his cancer diagnosis. What his wife said about his final days.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Tiffany Meyer.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. President Trump welcoming Prime Minister Netanyahu to the White House this morning for high-stakes talks about Iran, and the White House touting the newly released January jobs report. We now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent Mario Tzu. Mari, good evening.
Tiff, good evening. President Trump says that nothing definitive was reached during his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, other than insisting that negotiations with Iran continue. He says that he has a preference for a deal being reached, but if not, he reminds Iran of Operation Midnight Hammer. That's the U.S.'s strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities last summer. He also says that the meeting with Netanyahu was, quote, very good, and touts the relationship between the U.S. and Israel. This is coming after U.S.-Iran negotiations in Oman just last week. President Trump told Axios he's thinking of sending a second aircraft carrier to the Middle East in case negotiations with Iran fail. Here's President Trump when asked if a deal with Iran would stick.
They wouldn't talk to anybody else, but they're talking to me. But, you know, it's a good question. A lot of people say no. And I would say that I'd rather make a deal. It's got to be a good deal. No nuclear weapons, no missiles, no this, no that.
The Trump-Netanyahu meeting comes as demonstrators in Tehran celebrate the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. That's the 1979 uprising that ousted the pro-Western Shah, installing a theocratic dictatorship enforcing Sharia law. Demonstrators chant "Death to Israel" as the senior official in Iran's ruling system calls for national unity.
We are not seeking nuclear weapons. It's the tall wall of distrust that America and Europe have built with their words that stops the talks from leading to results. Our Iran will not bow to their excessive demands. It will not back off in the face of injustice and aggression.
That's as Iran doubles down on plans to continue its uranium enrichment program, with Iran's foreign minister saying he will not negotiate Iran's missile capabilities. Meanwhile, President Trump is celebrating his administration's economic wins at an event touting coal as America's most affordable energy source.
Because of tariffs, you saw that it was just announced our trade deficit has gone down. The other thing is breaking 7,000 on the S&P, and very importantly, 50,000 yesterday. 50,000 we broke on the Dow.
He's also celebrating the newly released January jobs report as, quote, far greater than expected. The report showing that the unemployment rate fell to 4.3% and the economy added 130,000 jobs. It also shows more people are entering the labor force now than at any time since 2001. The White House is highlighting the reversal from the jobs report exactly 1 year ago, demonstrating that the economy President Trump inherited was losing private sector jobs while adding government jobs, and now
there were more than 170,000 private sector jobs, and there was about a 40,000 decrease in government jobs. This administration came into office. We are reprivatizing the economy.
So it's really a remarkable, strong number. And to put it in perspective, to get that much job creation while, that basically the labor force is declining some because people are leaving the country and being deported is a really remarkable thing.
And at his coal event, President Trump is directing the Department of Energy to issue funds to coal plants in West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, and North Carolina to keep those plants online and open. He's also signing an executive order directing the Pentagon to purchase electricity from coal plants to power military operations. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Mario Tzu, NTD News.
All right, Mari, thanks for those updates. The Israel Defense Forces are conducting military operations in neighboring countries, as well as in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the head of the new transitional government set to oversee the Gaza Strip said he's working with other countries to help deliver aid to the territory. NTD's Jason Perry has the details and a warning. This report contains footage that some viewers may find disturbing.
The Israel Defense Forces accused the Hamas terrorist group in the Gaza Strip of violating the ceasefire agreement by shooting at Israeli troops earlier this week. No injuries were reported. And in response, Israel on Wednesday reported launching an airstrike against a terrorist named Ahmed Hassan, who was reportedly in charge of a sniper unit and also took part in multiple attacks in which Israeli troops were killed. Many buildings in the Gaza Strip have been destroyed, but tragically, not all bodies under the rubble have been recovered. Some residents have continued searching for the remains of their loved ones. This man said he was psychologically exhausted.
Thank God 2 days ago I found the jawbone of one of my sons. This is a sign that I will reach the rest of my children, God willing. But I will not find them all. I only found about 4 pounds of bones belonging to my wife and daughter.
Another man in a similar situation shared his thoughts as well.
A painful feeling. How can I describe it? I wish I could find my wife and children, to bury them in graves, to visit them in their graves, but I couldn't find them.
Also in the territory, a convoy of Gaza Strip residents was seen leaving a hospital, heading toward the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, which was recently opened for pedestrians. And the head of the new transitional government set to oversee the Gaza Strip, Alysa, visited the Rafah border crossing this week.
We are now working through different channels with various countries around the world to provide aid, particularly with the approach of the holy month of Ramadan.
Across Israel's eastern border in the West Bank, Israeli forces said they conducted a counterterrorism operation and detained 23 suspected terrorists and confiscated these weapons. The suspects were reportedly associated with Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorist group. And across Israel's northeastern border in Syria, Israeli forces said they recently found this weapon storage facility belonging to the Jamaah Islamiyah terrorist organization. Israel said they dismantled weapons in the facility, including guns and landmines, adding that the goal of their operations is to protect Israeli civilians from terrorist activity. Jason Perry, NTD News.
A father and his 3 small children are reported dead in Ukraine after a Russian attack on their home. This less than a week after the U.S. led the second round of trilateral peace talks. NTD's international correspondent Arian Postar has the latest.
Rescue staff in Ukraine's Kharkiv looking through rubble after a Russian attack. Local officials say the attack killed 4 civilians, including 3 small children. The father and his kids were at home when a Russian drone smashed into the building, killing all 4 of them. According to officials, the attack also seriously wounded their mother, who is 35 weeks pregnant.
A 34-year-old woman miraculously survived. She was swept away from the house by the impact. She suffered first-degree burns and bruises on various parts of her body.
The attack comes less than a week after the U.S. organized trilateral peace talks with officials from both Russia and Ukraine. Some accuse Russia of not actually trying to seek peace, but attending such meetings while still attacking civilian targets in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the country's military is now changing defense strategies.
Many changes are happening right now in the work of air defense. In some regions, the way teams operate, the entire small air defense component is being practically completely rebuilt.
Amid the ongoing attacks, the European Union approving a loan for Ukraine worth over $100 billion. The president of the European Parliament says this will ensure that essential public services can continue, while Ukraine's defense remains strong. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked the EU, saying it is important that this is precisely the signal that must be sent to the aggressor. Ukraine will endure and can protect lives. And in other Russia-related news, NATO is working to defend the Arctic against adversaries such as Beijing and Moscow.
In the face of Russia's increased military activity and China's growing interest in the High North, it was crucial that we do more. which is why we have just 2 hours ago launched Arctic Sentry.
NATO Chief Mark Rutte announces that the alliance is starting a mission to strengthen its presence in the Arctic to defend territories, including Greenland. The new mission, dubbed Arctic Sentry, will coordinate the increasing military presence of NATO allies in the Arctic. Rutte says this demonstrates NATO's commitment to the security of both the Arctic and the whole alliance. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
An update in the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. The Pima County Sheriff's Office is still not scheduling any press briefings or interviews despite new developments. Meanwhile, the FBI is conducting extensive searches along multiple roadways in Tucson. NTD's Eileen Richards has the latest.
Please give us some space.
The Pima County Sheriff's Office said again on Wednesday that it is not scheduling any press briefings or interviews unless a significant development occurs. It's the third time in a week that this office has declined to talk to the media. And it follows what could be considered some major developments, including a delivery driver detained and questioned for several hours, an investigative search of a resident's home in Rio Rico, and the release of images and video footage of a potential suspect. Though no suspect has been publicly identified, FBI Director Kash Patel told Fox News the Bureau is making progress.
I will say we have made substantial progress in these last 36, 48 hours thanks to the technical capabilities of the FBI and our partnerships. And I do believe we are looking at people who, as we say, are persons of interest.
The FBI said in a statement Wednesday that numerous agents were searching Tucson's Catalina foothills. In a social media post Wednesday afternoon, the Bureau said they were conducting an extensive search along multiple roadways and that it's related to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. They're continuing to offer a $50,000 reward for information leading to the recovery of Nancy Guthrie. Carlos Palazuelos, a delivery driver, was detained for questioning during a traffic stop yesterday. He told Fox News on Tuesday that he had nothing to do with the case.
Until right now, all I know is that they show my in-law a picture of somebody wearing a mask or something, and they supposedly look like my eyes.
He told other news outlets he was held for questioning for 8 hours while his home and vehicle were searched before he was released. Investigators have not commented on his account nor confirmed his identity. The sheriff's office confirmed that an adult male was detained as part of a follow-up to a lead and was released. Nancy Guthrie, 84, is the mother of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie and her 2 siblings. Their mother has been missing since February 1st. The family have said in social media posts that they believe she is still alive. Eileen Richards, NTD News.
According to multiple news reports late this afternoon, investigators have discovered a black glove. The glove reportedly looks very similar to the gloves worn by the masked man seen on surveillance video at Nancy Guthrie's front door on the day she disappeared. The glove was found about 1.5 miles from her home. Officers were seen removing the glove from the brush before placing it into a bag. Authorities in Canada have identified the school shooter who killed 8 people and injured some 27 others in British Columbia yesterday. They confirmed the suspect to be 18-year-old Jesse Van Rootselaar, who is transgender and a local resident.
I can say that Jesse was born as a biological male who approximately, the information that I have, approximately 6 years ago began to transition to female and identified as female both socially and publicly. Police had attended that residence on multiple occasions over the past several years, dealing with concerns of mental health with respect to our suspect. I can say that on different occasions, the suspect was apprehended for assessment and follow-up.
Police say they believe Van Rootselaar opened fire at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School yesterday afternoon after first killing his mother and 11-year-old stepbrother at home. He's accused of killing 6 people at school, including a teacher and 5 students aged 12 to 13. 2 other victims remain in serious condition. Police found him deceased with what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Authorities confirmed that Van Rootselaar dropped out of school 4 years ago and was not related to any of the victims at the school. Police say they believe he acted alone and did not appear to specifically target anyone. So far, the motive of the shooting remains unknown. It's also unclear how Van Rootselaar obtained his firearms. He did not have any firearms registered in his name, but did have a firearms license that expired in 2024. Canadian police say the investigation is still ongoing, and we will keep you updated with the latest information. James Van Der Beek has died a little more than a year after announcing his cancer diagnosis. The actor rose to fame starring as Dawson Leary on the 1990s era hit teen drama Dawson's Creek. He was also well known for his role in the 1999 movie Varsity Blues. In a post to Van Der Beek's Instagram today, his wife said the 48-year-old met his final days with courage, faith, and grace. Van Der Beek was diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer in 2023, but he didn't speak publicly about it until a year later. He was the father of 6 children with his wife, Kimberly. Coming up, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi highlighting the Justice Department's achievements during a congressional hearing today, but the session was marked by clashes over crime and fraud investigations. Chris Bob with the key takeaways. Lawmakers say that a shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security is likely this weekend. What could that look like? Jason Blair has the highlights from a hearing on Capitol Hill. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Lawmakers look at what could happen if the Department of Homeland Security shuts down over this weekend over a lack of funding. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has the takeaways from a hearing on Capitol Hill.
Absent the passage of a continuing resolution by Friday night, the Department of Homeland Security will shut down.
At a hearing of the House Appropriations Committee on Wednesday, lawmakers discussed the impacts of a possible shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. Congressman Mark Amadei says that looking at the current situation, a DHS shutdown is likely to happen.
The good work that the department does outside of immigration enforcement will come to a screeching halt.
This includes the TSA, Coast Guard, Secret Service, cybersecurity defense workers, FEMA disaster relief, and others.
What that really means is delayed disaster response, weakened cyber defenses, and uncertainty for the men and women who show up every day to keep this country safe.
The TSA administrator says that the vast majority of TSA employees are considered essential and are required to work during a shutdown.
Around 95%, or 61,000 of TSA's employees are deemed essential and continue to work to protect the traveling public during a shutdown while not getting paid.
McNeil says that during the last shutdown, the TSA saw an increase of unscheduled absences.
Which means folks calling out because they could not afford to show up to work. And what we have to do in those instances is to start kind of consolidating and collapsing some of our operations, which means that not all of our lanes are open, and that does lead to longer wait times.
Representatives from other agencies testified as well, including the Secret Service and Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
The assassination attempt on President Trump's life brought forward hard truths for our agency and critical areas for improvement. A shutdown halts our reforms.
Negotiations between Republicans and Democrats got more heated following the DHS-involved shootings of 2 Americans in Minnesota in January. Republicans argue Democrats are using the deadline to demand ICE curbs that would hinder enforcement. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem commented on negotiations on Tuesday.
But if you don't fund this department because of ICE, because of 11% of the budget that funds ICE, it shows that you don't truly understand what our mission is.
If a continuing resolution doesn't pass by the end of the day Friday, a DHS shutdown will begin at midnight and continue until the funding is passed by Congress. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
On Capitol Hill today, Attorney General Pam Bondi highlighted the achievements of the Justice Department during her first year in office. Lawmakers from both parties pressed Bondi on the department's actions under the current and previous administrations. NTD's Chris Bob has the story.
I came into office with the goal of refocusing the Department of Justice on its core mission after years of bloated bureaucracy and political weaponization.
Before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
When I will reclaim my time,
Mr. Chairman, the gentlelady has reclaimed her time.
I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatric.
At a hearing of the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday, Attorney General Pam Bondi testified on the accomplishments of the Justice Department during the first year of her leadership.
In 2025, we saw the lowest murder rate in 125 years.
Bondi said murder is down 21%, robbery is down 23%, carjacking down 43%, and gun assaults down 22%. She said the drop was no accident and credited President Trump's law and order push, even as the administration faces 267 lawsuits to date, challenging its agenda. Republicans also pressed Bondi on allegations of government weaponization under the previous administration, focusing on surveillance and intelligence gathering practices.
We are committed to working with Congress to uncover weaponization and other misconduct by Jack Smith, by others, Arctic Frost, everything that happened under the past administration. It's established when Colin is confirmed. He's amazing. I think you've met with him, you said, Chairman. When that is established, we're going to work on both sides of the aisle. That's what we want to do, to stop fraud.
Congressman Andy Biggs raised concerns about past queries under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act that involve members of Congress, congressional staff, journalists, and others not suspected of acting as foreign agents.
This is what was the legal predicate for using a foreign intelligence authority in the Arctic Frost investigation?
I can't discuss anything regarding that because it is very active and ongoing. If any member of the Democrat Party, if any of them, if that had happened to them, we would take that just as serious.
When asked whether former CIA Director John Brennan was under investigation, Bondi said the department is bound by policy and she would not discuss specific matters.
Today, I can't confirm nor deny whether there is a pending investigation, but what I will say is no one is above the law. Weaponization has ended.
Democratic lawmakers, including outgoing Congressman Jerry Nadler, spent much of the hearing delivering long statements on the Epstein case. Bondi said she wasn't given a chance to respond until the very end, saying that Democrats' own investigation and President Trump's work on the economy should be part of the discussion.
I think it's very interesting.
You can reclaim
he talks
time,
about they indicted, the president said they indicted him twice, they tried to impeach him twice, and you, Mr. Nadler, were one of the leads on the impeachment. You said the president conspired, sought foreign interference in the 2016 election. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin.
The arena. So are these folks. But we never expected that the Department of Justice would not seek to prosecute and investigate those who are making threats against us.
I can assure you that they are very serious. They are being looked into. None of you should be threatened, ever. None of your children should be threatened. I will work with all of you on both sides of the aisle.
Last week, the DOJ secured a federal prison sentence in a case involving repeated threats against 2 members of Congress and their staff. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Chris Bobb, NTD News.
Coming up, lawmakers on Capitol Hill say China isn't just threatening Taiwan with an invasion, but with economic pressure and political influence. Jack Bradley with more. And a new report says the Chinese Communist Party is using a large network to influence democratic countries, including the U.S. Experts say many of these groups look normal, but may be tied to the CCP. Christina Corona reports. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Lawmakers warn that China is threatening Taiwan not only with military drills, but also with economic and political pressure. The House Select Committee on the CCP is probing China's attempt to take over Taiwan without firing a single shot. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
China has the capability right now to take Taiwan without even a shot being fired.
It's not just warships and fighter jets. Lawmakers say the Chinese Communist Party is waging a different kind of warfare against Taiwan.
Through economic coercion, legal manipulation, the exploitation of international organizations.
To demoralize the people on Taiwan so that they conclude that their status quo is untenable and they must submit to the PRC.
Beijing has worked to influence Taiwan through export controls.
Where the Chinese specifically targeted Taiwanese pineapple growers. They did it on the verge of an election. Local elected leaders found themselves only winning if they were in support of mainland China.
That's not only economic coercion, it's election interference.
China has also restricted tourism and trade with countries that strengthen ties with Taipei.
Guatemala has faced
significant CCP economic coercion, including a ban on agricultural imports, following a call between the Guatemalan and Taiwanese presidents.
The hearing comes on the heels of a major U.S. arms deal. In December, the Trump administration approved an $11 billion weapons package for Taiwan, its largest ever, including advanced missiles and drones. But some members say that the lack of mentioning Taiwan by name in certain sections of the Trump administration's defense strategy isn't helping.
It's going to literally manipulate international law and international institutions to further isolate Taiwan.
But others say actions speak louder than words.
If you look at the president's commitment in terms of arms sales, it's about 3 times what any other previous president has done with respect to Taiwan.
I always say that it's more important what you do than what you say. And so we're now close to $1 trillion in defense spending. And it's not because we're afraid of Russia or anything. The only thing that we're spending that much money for is to deter China.
Beijing's influence efforts also extend into the U.S. Officials say that the CCP funds American nonprofits that fuel protests, push radical policies, and still get taxpayer subsidies. A senior State Department official telling the New York Post on Tuesday, organizations like Code Pink and the People's Forum denigrate the United States, whitewash the violence of Marxist regimes, and run cover for China while enjoying an influx of cash from a donor network with connections to the Chinese Communist Party. The takeaway here is that there's bipartisan agreement in the U.S. in countering the CCP and strengthening Taiwan's defenses. Reporting by Jack Bradley, NTD News.
A new report from the Jamestown Foundation says the CCP is linked to thousands of groups operating in democratic countries. Researchers say their goal is to quietly influence politics and public opinion, including here in the United States. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
A new report from the Jamestown Foundation warns that the Chinese Communist Party is using a massive global network to influence politics into democratic countries, including the United States. The report maps more than 2,000 organizations linked to the CCP's United Front Work Department, a system designed to impose the CCP's influence and ideology without using force.
The party uses this system to shape political, social, and economic environments in ways that serve the party's goal, which is becoming the dominant global power and advancing claims such as the annexation of Taiwan.
The report says the organizations often look legitimate, such as cultural groups, business and trade associations, professional societies, schools, and Chinese language media. Researchers say much of the influence effort isn't obvious and isn't illegal activity.
Much of the United Front work happens through informal ties, such as personal relationships, invitation to China, honorary titles, and privileged access.
Though the press conference was held in Canada, the report says the same United Front influence is active in the United States and other democracies. Jamestown fellow Cheryl Yu says this isn't about ethnicity, it's about the CCP's influence operations.
This is not a question of ethnicity, it is a question of state-directed political influence inside a democracy. And protecting targeted communities is part of protecting our democratic institutions.
Jamestown President Peter Mattis says the danger is that these groups can end up speaking for communities.
When we let some of these leaders represent whole communities, we are letting the party take away the voice of our citizens. And they're using the legitimacy of our citizens to put the party's voice and Beijing's perspective into our politics, into our decision-making.
Researchers say recognizing how these networks operate is key to protecting societies from foreign influence. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Turning now to the Winter Olympics, many are comparing two Chinese-American female athletes, Eileen and Alysa Liu. Alysa Liu competed for the U.S. as a figure skater and won gold, while Eileen competed for China and took silver in the freestyle skiing final. Both were born in the U.S. and have a parent who is an overseas Chinese. But the two took very different paths, sparking discussions online. Joining us now to unpack all of this is Lily Tang Williams, survivor of Mao's Cultural Revolution. She's also a New Hampshire congressional candidate. Lily, thank you so much for joining us. Always great to see you. First, why do you think this comparison is getting so much attention?
Well, that just sends a message to all the immigrants who brought their children or their children were born in this country. Yeah, we have a different kind of generations. Some are very in touch with China's history, and denounce communism, think that's evil ideology. But some just forgot their roots and they're pro-CCP, maybe because their parents are pro-CCP. And also it's self-interest driven. It's lots of money involved and lots of commercial interest and for the sponsors too. And I'm anti-CCP. I cannot even go to China, visit my family for past 11 years. And so when you look at the two young women, I will say the Miss Liu is American patriot. It's not about you are Chinese American, Korean American. It's about if you embrace American ideals that, we love this country, but if you can just carry other countries' flag and play for other countries' team, I think Eileen Gu might consider to become a Chinese citizen, live there, and to say what's like.
To your point, it is a tale of two choices, one using her American training to benefit China while raking in millions in sponsorships, the other declining to represent the Chinese Communist Party and choosing to represent America. What do these different choices tell us about the Chinese regime's influence and goals?
Well, Xi Jinping's Chinese China dream is to use soft power and use the United Front Work Department to infiltrate into America, not just Chinese Americans communities, but in our schools, in our business, corporations, Hollywood, and politics. So I have been warning people for 10 years that they don't have to fire one shot. And they send their ideologies and their spies and their operatives in this country, indoctrinate, and also offer them very good benefits to be pro-CCP. And I have been tracking this for 10 years, and we have Chinese companies in New Hampshire too, to buy buildings, buy real estate, and have a business, and buy private university campuses, and to have their own international schools. One of them is even said that they want to train China's future diplomats. I mean, look at what Jing Wu, right? Like a state senator, minority senator leader in Texas recently to say, hey, we are the majority. If minorities all team up together, have this anti-white sentiment because white people are oppressor, he does not know what he's talking about. The real oppressors are the communists. So it's not about your race. It's about your ideology. So I'm hoping that, people can say what kind of ideologies and work better in the history and what kind of Chinese Americans that you want to call patriot. And as I said, if you love China so much, you should not be living in the United States. Go to China to be in touch with Chinese regular citizens who have no free speech, who have no freedom, who have no religious freedom. To go there, to be in touch with reality, to show, your native country patriotism, but get out of America, I will say to them.
Eileen Gu is coming under a lot of criticism over her recent comments after she lost gold, saying, quote, sometimes it feels like I'm carrying the weight of two countries on my shoulders. Many pointing out that when she wins, the gold only goes to China. How useful is it to the Chinese regime to have popular people, in this case, an athlete, represent them on the world stage?
Chinese Communist Party has been recruiting talents in the U.S. for a while. And not just the athletes, but, influencers and engineers and scientists and offer them benefits. And they do take advantage of people's, family connections in China. And maybe they just are brainwashed not to know the true history and true colors of the Communist Party. I think it's absolutely disgraceful and shameful for her parents to make her feel like a Chinese Communist Party and still the savior of China without the CCP, like Chinese people cannot have prosperity. It's just a total BS. Actually, America is the best country to provide a free market and opportunities for legal immigrants like me. But she was born here, she did not know. And our educational system don't teach her that. And if her parents don't teach her true history of China, then of course, she's a young lady who just doesn't know much. And she got lots of endorsement and lots of sponsorships and make lots of money. And I still would advise her maybe when she goes to China, live there for a while and go to countryside and talk to regular Chinese people maybe she will know that America is actually the best country on earth, and she would love to come back and kiss the dirt.
On the other hand, Alysa says that in 2022, she found out that her family was being spied on by the CCP along with other Chinese dissidents in the U.S. It's reported that her father was a political refugee after the Tiananmen Square protests. Talk to us about how the Chinese regime pressures overseas Chinese dissidents, even their family members who are born and raised in America.
Well, that it's I would say, transnational oppressive regime. They use money, they use influence, they use politics, they even recruit people to run for them, get into the U.S. government. And I have been warning people where we are focused on China on the world stage and fight the tariff wars and the cultural wars, we have to mind our own country. They are here, and CCTV is showing every day. If you are Chinese American, you want to see Chinese language program, and they have access to CCTV, which is China's propaganda show. And I have friends watch that all the time. And because, they are continue to miss China and to allow themselves to be indoctrinated by the Chinese propaganda, it's very sad to me. It's like, how could your parents survive communism, come here? Then you don't come here, embrace American values. So good for Miss Liu's parents who actually was a student leader, demonstrator in Tiananmen Square. So he, as a father, educated her daughter right. Don't forget your past and don't forget the history. The communism is the most evil regime in the world. America stands for freedom. So I'm so proud of the call, Miss Liu, American patriot. And I'm proud of how she was educated by her own father.
Well, Lily Tang Williams, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up, California is home to many billionaires, but some tech entrepreneurs are now looking for property outside the state. Mark Zuckerberg is said to be one of them. David Lamb speaks with an expert on corporate site selection. And at the Olympics, a big day for Team USA, both on the slopes and on the ice. Dave Martin joins us to discuss. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. California is home to many billionaires, but now some wealthy tech entrepreneurs are looking to move outside the state. This comes as California is considering a wealth tax on billionaires. NTD's David Lamb reports.
Some of the nation's wealthiest people live in California, such as Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, but he's reportedly the latest billionaire to buy property in Florida. John Boyd, who specializes in business site selection, spoke to us from South Florida, saying his company's survey found that nearly all of his respondents oppose the proposed 5% wealth tax in California.
They view the wealth tax as yet another indictment, another blemish on an already very difficult and costly California business climate.
The measure would impose a 5% tax on billionaires living in California on January 1st, 2026. The tax would be due in 2027. 90% of the tax money would be spent on health care for the public, with the rest on administration, education, and food assistance.
But this is the wrong way to do it. In fact, just the opposite will happen. The more you tax something, the less you have of it.
Boyd is referring to the entrepreneurs who've already bought property in Miami. Zuckerberg and his wife are reportedly buying a new mansion on Indian Creek. It's one of the affluent areas in South Florida, known as the Billionaire Bunker. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos also owns property there, as well as in Boca Raton and Miami. Boyd says other regions are also seeing interest.
We see a lot of markets in and around Lake Tahoe, like Incline Village and Minden, Nevada, in Douglas County. We see Summerlin in Vegas. We see some of the high-growth markets in the Dallas Metroplex region.
If the tax proposal passes, residents whose net worth is $1 billion or more would face a tax of at least $50 million. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
And we have some breaking news. The House of Representatives tonight voting to pass the Save America Act. It's a bill backed by President Trump that mandates proof of citizenship for voter registration and photo ID at the polls. The measure is now heading to the Senate, where Democratic leaders have vowed to block it, even though the GOP holds a slim 51-seat majority in the Senate. The SAVE Act would still need 60 votes to overcome a filibuster. So far, one Republican, Senator Alysa Murkowski from Alaska, has come out against the bill. And now for your sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, we've got some baseball and NBA news, but let's start in the Olympics. 8 medals were up for grabs today. How did the Team USA do?
They did well today, Tiff. 5 more medals for Team USA, including a pair of golds. Now, first off, Ryan Cochran-Siegel took silver in the men's alpine skiing Super G competition. Now, FYI, his mom actually won gold in skiing back in the '72 Winter Olympics, so quite a family affair there. In the women's freestyle skiing, Team USA went first, second in the women's moguls, with Elizabeth Lemley taking gold in her first Olympics, while teammate Jalen Koff, who got silver in this event 4 years ago, was right behind her with another silver again. So congratulations to those two. In the men's 1,000 meter speed skating competition, Jordan Stoltz, who's already the world record holder in this event, continued his dominance, taking home the gold and setting an Olympic record in the process. Very thrilling race there at the end. Finally, in figure skating, Team USA's Evan Bates and Chalk Madison took silver in this day's free dance competition, narrowly missing out on gold, which was won by France. So if you look at the medal leaderboard here, Norway still in front with 7 golds and 13 medals overall. But USA coming up here now, 4 golds, 6 silvers, 2 bronze. Now host country Italy, 7 bronze there. They've got just as many medals total as Norway. And you know what, Tiff, when we were doing this yesterday, even though it said Norway there and it said Norway in my notes, I think I said Sweden actually it was leading. So as always, believe the graphic instead of me. Just an FYI there.
The main point is today, USA is in top 3.
Number 2 right now. Very impressive. We still got, 3/4 of the way to go, but it's a pretty good start.
It is. Elsewhere at the Winter Games, though, earlier we mentioned on Monday that American skier Lindsey Vonn was still in the hospital after her crash Sunday. What is the latest on her condition?
Yeah, well, just this afternoon, she posted a picture on social media of her in the hospital. The caption read, "I had my 3rd surgery today and it was successful. Success today is a completely different meaning than it did a few days ago. I'm making progress, and while it is slow, I know I'll be okay." Now, end quote. Now, she had already said that she suffered a complex tibia fracture that would require multiple surgeries. Now, just an FYI, a complex fracture means the bone is shattered into multiple pieces and there's significant damage to the surrounding soft tissue. Now, the photo today shows her with some kind of metal frame that looks like it's attached to her leg. Looked very painful. And this is the same leg where she tore her ACL just 2 weeks ago. So an incredible overall comeback for her, but a very tough Olympics here for Lindsey Vonn. So we wish her a speedy recovery.
Seems they're built different for sure.
For sure.
Very painful. Moving to baseball news, though, spring training started this week, and we already have some significant injuries to report.
Yeah, almost all of them have the same injuries. A little strange here. 3 very important players all have hamate bone injuries, starting with Arizona All-Star outfielder Corbin Carroll, who suffered a broken hamate bone in his right hand yesterday during batting practice. Now, he had been in line to play for Team USA in the upcoming World Baseball Classic. This injury, though, will prevent him from playing. Also, Baltimore Orioles highly touted infielder Jackson Holliday. He's going to miss opening day with a broken right hamate bone as well. He will undergo a procedure tomorrow to repair it. And Mets All-Star shortstop Francisco Lindor, he was scheduled to undergo surgery today for a stress fracture in the hamate bone of his left hand. Now, he's expected to be out for about 6 weeks. That puts his opening day in jeopardy as well. Now, the Mets did sign All-Star shortstop Bo Bichette in the offseason, but it sounds like he's learning third base right now, according to manager Carlos Mendoza, so it's unclear who will man shortstop while Lindor was out. But Tiff, the hamate bone is right there in your palm, so you can see when you have the especially have the bat that's going to be grinding right up against it. It can be kind of painful. Here, swung the bat a lot.
Kind of painful.
Yeah, it can be pretty painful.
Sounds very
painful if it's
painful.
broken, of course, but you can definitely feel it if you swing the bat enough.
I mean, yikes. New year and new injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
Shifting gears to the NBA, though, there was a significant brawl in Monday's Detroit-Charlotte game, resulting in 4 ejections. What's been the league's response?
Well, today they handed out a number of suspensions here. They were significant. Pistons forward Isaiah Stewart got the longest 7-game suspension for leaving the bench area during the brawl. Now, Stewart was given a lengthier ban in part because of a repeated history of unsportsmanlike acts. Also, Hornets forwards Miles Bridges and Moussa Diabate were suspended 4 games apiece for fighting and escalating the whole fracas there. Meanwhile, Pistons center Jalen Duren was suspended 2 games for kind of initiating the fight. Now, this all started midway through the third quarter Monday night. Diabate fouled Duren. Duren confronted him immediately afterward. It appeared they butted heads. I'm not sure who actually did the headbutting. Then Duren kind of pushed Diabate's face with his hand, and then you had multiple people joining in. The Pistons ended up winning the game 110-104. Meanwhile, the player suspensions all start today, and they will be not getting paid while they are suspended. So one guy here loses almost $1 million in salary loss. So pretty significant, Tiff.
I'll teach you not to start fights.
Exactly.
Bit surprised they beat the hockey teams to the fights.
You know, the fighting seems to be kind of a part of hockey. You know, it's just an accepted part. It's kind of the highlight of the game sometimes is the fighting. They let them fight, and then afterwards they have to sit in the penalty box or something like that.
So this is new.
So basketball, it's not really not supposed to be part of the game. It's supposed to be a non-contact sport. It's supposed to be.
All right. Well, Davis Oz, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tiff.
And that's all for today's news. Round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.